I'm standing here today because somebody has to say what Washington doesn't want you to hear. For 4 years, they told you Donald Trump was the biggest threat to our democracy. They spent your tax dollars, they weaponized your government, and they destroyed your trust in our institutions. But here's what they never told you. Every single attack on President Trump made somebody very, very rich. I've watched this happen from the inside. I've seen the receipts. I've followed the money trail that leads straight from your wallet to their bank accounts. And what I found will make your blood boil. This wasn't resistance. This wasn't protecting democracy. This was the biggest government-funded cash grab in American history, and they used your hatred of one man to pull it off. Let me start with the Mueller investigation. Remember that? 2 years, 34 people indicted, and supposedly this was all about Russian collusion. They told you this was about national security. But I'm going to tell you what it really was about. $32 million. That's how much Robert Mueller's special counsel operation cost the American taxpayer. $32 million to investigate a hoax. But here's where it gets interesting. Andrew Weissmann, Mueller's top prosecutor, walked away from that investigation and straight into a book deal worth millions. He became a regular on MSNBC, making 6 figures per appearance to bash Trump. Lisa Page, who sent those anti-Trump text messages, while she was supposed to be conducting an impartial investigation, she got a book deal too. Peter Strzok, the FBI agent who promised his girlfriend they'd stop Trump, book deal. CNN contributor contract, speaking engagements worth hundreds of thousands. You paid for their investigation. They got rich off their failure to find any evidence. Does that sound like justice to you? Then we had James Comey. This is the FBI director who admitted he leaked his own memos to the press to trigger the special counsel appointment. The man who violated FBI protocols and department policy. What happened to him after he got fired? 7-figure book deal, speaking tour charging $100,000 per speech, TV appearances, podcast deals, the whole circus. James Comey turned betraying the FBI into a multimedia empire, and every dollar came from people who believed his story about protecting the rule of law. But wait, there's more. John Brennan, former CIA director, spent 4 years on television calling Trump a traitor, a Russian asset, claiming he had evidence of collusion that never materialized. What was Brennan's reward for spreading these lies? NBC News contributor contract worth millions, book deal, security consulting contracts with companies that needed government connections. The man who ran the CIA turned fiction writing into a full-time career. I want you to think about this for a minute. These are people who swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. Instead, they used their government positions to gather intelligence, not for national security, but for their own personal profit. They turned your trust into their retirement plan. And it wasn't just individuals. Entire companies got rich off the Trump investigation circus. Fusion GPS, the opposition research firm that created the Steele dossier, didn't just get paid by the Hillary Clinton campaign. They had contracts with media companies, consulting agreements with law firms, and a pipeline of clients who wanted dirt on their political enemies. The Steele dossier was garbage, but it was profitable garbage. Christopher Steele himself, the foreign spy who wrote that dossier, made millions from American political clients who were desperate to believe his fantasies about Russian hotel rooms and compromat. He's still out there, still getting paid by American political operatives who want to hear what they want to hear about their enemies. The law firms made a fortune, too. Perkins Coie, the firm that hired Fusion GPS for the Clinton campaign, billed millions in fees for Trump-related investigations. They had entire departments dedicated to anti-Trump research, funded by political committees and dark money groups. When you can bill $1,000 an hour to investigate the president, suddenly everything becomes a constitutional crisis that requires immediate legal attention. But here's where it gets really sick. The media companies that pushed these stories weren't just spreading propaganda, they were cashing in on it. CNN's ratings during the Trump presidency were the highest in network history. They hired every disgraced former FBI agent, every bitter ex-CIA official, every fired DOJ prosecutor who had an axe to grind. These people weren't analysts, they were products. CNN was selling anti-Trump content to anti-Trump audiences, and business was booming. MSNBC did the same thing. Rachel Maddow built her entire show around conspiracy theories about Russian collusion. She spent 2 years promising her viewers that the walls were closing in on Trump, that bombshell evidence was coming any day now. Her ratings went through the roof. Her salary went from $7 million to $30 million a year. And when the Mueller report came out and proved her wrong about everything, she just moved on to the next conspiracy theory. These networks didn't hire these former government officials because of their expertise. They hired them because hatred sells, and these people were selling the premium product. Every night, millions of Americans tuned in to hear the latest chapter in the Trump investigation soap opera, and every night, the ad revenue poured in. Meanwhile, what was happening to actual crime in America? What was happening at our border while they were chasing Russian phantoms in Washington? Fentanyl deaths skyrocketed. Human trafficking exploded. Chinese spies infiltrated our universities and stole our technology. But none of that generated ratings like the latest leak about Trump's taxes, or his phone calls, or his visitors. The 51 intelligence officials who signed that letter calling Hunter Biden's laptop Russian disinformation, where are they now? Half of them have consulting contracts with defense contractors who need security clearances. They're getting paid to advise companies on how to navigate the same government agencies they used to run. They turned their credibility into currency, and when that credibility was spent, they cashed out. And let's talk about Twitter and Facebook and Google. These companies made billions in ad revenue by keeping Americans angry and divided about Trump. Their algorithms fed people exactly the content that would keep them engaged, keep them clicking, keep them watching ads. The angrier you got about politics, the more money they made. They had a financial incentive to make sure the Trump drama never ended. When they finally banned Trump from their platforms, it wasn't about protecting democracy. It was about protecting their business model. They had spent 4 years training their users to be addicted to Trump content, and when he was about to leave office, they needed to make sure the addiction continued. So they banned him, created a massive controversy, and kept the engagement numbers high while they transitioned to new content. The Twitter files revealed that these companies were working with government agencies to suppress information that might help Trump. But here's what the Twitter files didn't tell you. They were getting paid for that cooperation. Government contracts, advertising deals, regulatory protection, big tech censorship wasn't just political, it was profitable. Even the prosecutors made bank. The Manhattan DA's office that indicted Trump raised millions in donations from Trump-hating donors who wanted to see him in handcuffs. Alvin Bragg went from unknown prosecutor to Democratic hero overnight with speaking engagements and media appearances that set him up for a political career worth millions. Letitia James, the New York Attorney General who sued Trump's business, used those lawsuits to raise her national profile and fundraise for higher office. Every lawsuit, every press conference, every dramatic court filing was content for her political brand. She turned prosecuting Trump into a marketing campaign for Letitia James. I want you to understand something. These people didn't go after Trump because they thought he was a threat to democracy. They went after him because he was a threat to their business. Washington runs on a simple principle: conflict creates cash flow. The more they could make you hate Trump, the more money they could squeeze out of that hatred. Think about the timing. Every major leak, every new investigation, every breathless media report came right before major fundraising deadlines or book release dates or speaking tour announcements. This wasn't coincidence. This was coordination between people who had turned American politics into their personal ATM. The January 6th committee was the same thing. 9 months of primetime television with Hollywood producers directing the show and former network news executives running the communications strategy. They spent millions of taxpayer dollars on what was essentially a TV miniseries designed to damage Trump politically. And when it was over, what happened? Book deals, speaking engagements, cable news contracts. They turned a congressional investigation into an audition reel for their post-government careers. Adam Schiff, who spent 4 years promising evidence of Russian collusion that he never produced, leveraged his Trump-fighting credentials into a Senate campaign that raised tens of millions of dollars. Eric Swalwell, who was literally compromised by a Chinese spy but somehow became a Trump-Russia expert, used his committee positions to build a national fundraising network. These people didn't fight Trump to save democracy. They fought Trump to save their political careers. But here's the part that should make you the angriest. While all these people were getting rich off of fighting Trump, what was happening to you? Your wages stayed flat while inflation exploded. Your kids' schools stayed closed while politicians' kids went to private academies. Your small business got shut down while Amazon and Walmart made record profits. Your constitutional rights got trampled while constitutional lawyers got rich defending the people who trampled them. The biggest scam wasn't Russian collusion or Ukrainian phone calls or classified documents. The biggest scam was convincing you that your problems were caused by Donald Trump instead of the people who actually run this country. They needed you to focus on Trump so you wouldn't focus on them, the permanent bureaucracy, the media conglomerates, the consulting class that gets rich no matter who wins elections. I'm not asking you to love Donald Trump. I'm asking you to follow the money. Look at who got rich while they told you democracy was dying. Look at who cashed in while they told you the country was falling apart. Look at who built their careers on your anger and fear and division. Every dollar they made came from your pocket. Every book deal was funded by your tax dollars that paid their government salaries while they planned their exit strategy. Every cable news contract was subsidized by the credibility they stole from the institutions you trusted them to protect. This is why they're so afraid of Trump coming back. It's not because he's a threat to democracy. It's because he's a threat to their business model. They've spent 8 years building an entire economy around being anti-Trump. And if that cash cow disappears, a lot of very important people are going to have to find honest work for the first time in their lives. So when they tell you the next election is about saving democracy, remember what I've told you today. Democracy wasn't the victim of the last 8 years. You were. Your money, your trust, your country, all of it was for sale to the highest bidder. And the highest bidders were the people telling you they were fighting for your freedom while they were stealing your future. That's the real crime here. Not anything Trump did or didn't do. The real crime is that your own government, your own media, your own institutions were turned into weapons against you, and the people who pulled the trigger got rich doing it. They sold your birthright and called it patriotism. They destroyed your trust and called it resistance. The money trail doesn't lie, the receipts don't lie, and I'm not going to stop following either one until every American knows exactly who got rich while our country got robbed.